Okay, I'm going to do a short video on the ultimate steelhead bobber rod. I've bobber fished a lot, and I fish mainly on the North Fork of the Lewis, which is pretty big. So this might not be the ultimate for smaller rivers, but on a little bit larger rivers, it really is. I've went through a lot and built a lot of rods. My previous favorite was an 11.5 foot rod. It was a 4 to 10 built on a Rainshadow blank. And when you get rods this long, oftentimes they are too slow. They'll be noodly. Well, with a bobber rod, you want to be able to cast really good, and you also want to be able to set the hook, because you've got a lot of line out and you've got a bobber that you have to take up the slack. So that rod had a medium to medium fast action. It was very good. It casts a mile, but I found a better one. And I looked at all the major makers, and for some reason, Rainshadow seems to really put some thought into these steelhead bobber rods. They got other good rods too, but I never found one that was close to my 11.5 footer, and I looked at all the major makers. And I live in Woodland, Washington, so I mean, there's a lot of fishing rods built around here. At any rate, this is a 13 foot. It's their newest family of graphite. I forget what the family is. You can look it up on their website. Or I get all my stuff at Angler's Workshop here in Woodland. They have a website. But it's a 13 foot 4 to 10. And I did some things on it that, you know, they're not the coolest in the world, but I really like them. This rod blank is actually on the fast side, and the longer the rod is, the faster it's got to be. So a good portion of the bend in this rod is in the upper 1/3 to 1/4, and what that allows you to do is really cast. You can really cast, and there's enough backbone you can set the hook. One thing you'll find when you start using a longer rod too is that it wears the fish down really fast. It's just, they're like trying to fight bubble gum. It just wears them down really quick. So anyways, I'll start from stem to stern. And the first thing I did was I put just a rubber, like a crutch deal on the bottom there. I like big piece of rubber there, so it kind of grips the rocks when you lean it up against a tree or something, rather than metal. I made a rope butt, and I just take regular rope. It's nylon, and it's woven pretty tight, and you dye it with RIT dye, and so you do a wad of that, and you can do several rods. I really like rope butts. I like the feel, and if you want, you can double wind them, so you do one layer, then go back and do another for casting rods, heavier rods. That's kind of good. Then the real seat here is a cushioned one, and you see it's got kind of a hump there. That is so comfortable. You wouldn't think that little hump makes a big difference, but it does. Then I went and put just a cork foregrip. I've also built a lot of rods with graphite butts. Lamaglass does it, but they put a graphite foregrip. To me, it's ugly, and I wouldn't do it. So anyways, then I just wrapped it with red thread. These rod blanks are kind of titanium, and they're just gorgeous blanks. They're extremely light. I'm going to say they're easily as light as an IMX G Loomis, and I've got several of those. But the blanks are not expensive. They're incredibly high quality. I can't say enough about it. And then what I do is I use, they're called Fuji Alkanite guides. They're 40% lighter than hard alloys, and they're actually lighter than SICs, and a set on this rod is maybe $15. They're not expensive, maybe $20, and that's the deal. So a rod this long really makes fishing nice. It keeps your line off the water. You can cast a mile. I can cast on the other side of the Lewis just about anywhere, the North Fork, and fish both sides because I can keep that much rod or line off the water. The next thing I did is not the rod, but It's the setup. Is I have a US Reels Supercaster 230 SX. It has a really big spool you can see. It's kind of shaped like a Mitchell 304S, which I really like. But those are the old coffee grinder Mitchells. I've caught more steelhead on those than any. But they're kind of grindy, but the drags sound so good, so that's why I like them. They just scream. But this thing will cast like you cannot believe, and the reel only weighs as much as a Shimano 2000. It weighs less than a 2500, and it holds more line than any steelhead could ever pull off this rod. So anyways, that's my little blurb there. Check out Rainshadow, I think, if you want to build a rod. Building rods is not hard, and it's a lot of fun. So that's all I got to say about the ultimate steelhead bobber rod.